Good morning. So, for today's walk with me, I want to discuss something that I'm going through right now, which is remembering that healing is not linear. And it's one thing to kind of understand that on a theoretical level, and it's one thing when you're kind of going through it. And the reason I'm wanting to talk about that is because for the last 2 days, I've just been really feeling down and just this really heavy feeling of sadness and also just heaviness. These days, I'm just feeling this kind of emptiness and also like deep aloneness. But it's not just feeling lonely. I actually spend a lot of time alone, and I love being alone. It's not being alone. It's this other deeper kind of like, I don't know, just not feeling connected. And I guess the reason I wanted to do this video is because, I wanted to talk about this nonlinear process of personal growth and healing. And you know, the hard thing for me is that as soon as I start feeling anything negative these days, I actually start spiraling, because I just came out of a 6-year depression. And during that time, I mean, it was hard, it was dark, it was really lonely and heavy. And I mean, I often just wanted to disappear. And at the same time, I'm so happy that I was well surrounded by friends and family, and thanks to them, like, I know I wouldn't have done anything. But honestly, there was a lot of times that I didn't really care if I was living or not. And that's always a scary place to get to. And so when I start having any of these kind of negative thoughts and things, my mind starts spiraling and saying, oh my gosh, 6 more years of depression coming along. And I know that's not true, but that's where my mind goes. And not to mention that, I mean, it's been about a year and a half now, thankfully, that, I've done a lot to get out of that depression. I did a lot of psychedelic therapies. I did breath work. I did meditation. I really got out of it. So, I know I'm progressing. I know that's just a phase, and I know that we do go back down through, moments of feeling not so good when we're learning and healing. And I know it's part of the process, but when you're going through it again, it's different. Oops, here's a car. And the problem too is that all of a sudden I not only start having those really hard feelings again, it's almost like everything starts kind of spiraling. And I go through moments where, I start thinking that I'm kind of like wondering what my purpose is, and that, I know that my deep wound here on earth seems to be, at least the one I know, because the one I'm aware of, maybe there's a deeper one that I'm still going to be working through later, but the one I seem to be working on these days is feeling important, feeling like I have a purpose here, that I'm even like good to be here. And I know that those feelings also come back out when you're not feeling good, and that's normal. We all have our shadows. We all have things we're dealing with. We all have our kind of past. We all have the things that we want to be working on. And I know I actually did a video on this already. It was more about grief, but it's the same type of thing. I know that, like, our healing path is more of a spiral, and I'll put that link in the video. Actually, it's funny, I think I'm wearing the exact same t-shirt. Anyway, interesting. I'll put that link here so that you can see that video if you want to. But I know these things, but when you're living it again, it just seems hard. And I woke up just feeling so sad, and I cried, and I just don't know why these feelings are coming back up. But I also wanted to share what I've been doing to actually deal with these feelings is actually a technique that I learned when I read the book Chatter by Ethan Kross. And he just was mentioning that when he started meditating, one of the things that he would do is, sometimes when we meditate, we don't really know what to do. And I really liked what he was suggesting, which was just to like sit and be like, what is going on in my body? And so to kind of be very curious about like, what are your physical sensations linked to, let's say, like in my case, the sadness or the kind of emptiness? Where is that situated in my body? And so I in my case, it's this very weird sensation in my stomach, and it's just heavy, kind of tingly. It's really uncomfortable. Like, it's the type of thing, like, with time now I realize it's the type of thing, like maybe in the past when I had that feeling, I would maybe try to escape it somehow. Like maybe I would like, do something to distract myself for not feeling that feeling, not listening to what it actually has to say. And so yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting technique. It's not only, you don't even have to do it when you're feeling down, let's say. It's actually really kind of cool to do it with even just normal feelings, like, let's say, hunger. Like, next time you're hungry, be curious about that sensation. How would you describe it? It's really funny. I realize most of these sensations, it's like almost impossible to describe to somebody. It's almost impossible to be like, oh yeah, it feels, I mean, we always say like, oh, I'm hungry. People know what that means. But if you had to describe it in another word than saying you're hungry, how would you do that? Same thing with being thirsty, or, if you need to go to the bathroom, how does those sensations feel in the body? And I find that those are techniques that kind of help you be very grounded and present, things that are actually, we're always talking about that, but we're not always talking about ways of actually being grounded or present or helping us kind of figure those things out. It also really works well when you're in pain. Like, for example, if you have a headache, and you really concentrate on the headache and think about how you would describe it, it's really kind of crazy because the feeling starts disappearing. It's kind of like a mirage, I find. It's like as soon as I actually start kind of concentrating on the feeling or the sensation in my body, the feeling actually kind of disappears and migrates. And so it's good with pain because the pain kind of morphs and changes, and you kind of get to a place where you don't have that pain anymore. It could be a pain in your knee. I've done that before. I mean, it doesn't work like 100%, but it's pretty interesting to see how it kind of reduces the pain a lot. But in this case, I'm actually not trying to get my pain to disappear. And the funny thing is, it still does the mirage thing, in the sense that when I sit with that feeling, often like, that heaviness and stuff kind of goes away. And then I'm like, but why are you disappearing? I'm trying to be just very curious and interested in what that pain is trying to tell me. And when I sat with it this morning, some old thoughts came back, some old kind of stories, some pains, some truths that I think are true, but probably are not true. And I sat with those feelings, and I was just curious with them and trying to understand what they were trying to tell me. This technique is actually very similar to the one of the book I just read that Ashley from the Alchemy of Ash suggested, called Letting Go. And again, if you're curious and reading about that and learning about that, she has a great series on her website, on her YouTube page actually, where she talks about that. I'll put a link in the description. But it's the same technique. It's just about actually being curious with your physical sensations and asking them what they're trying to tell you, instead of actually trying to escape them in any way that we usually do. And we usually escape them by either distracting ourselves with work, with something that we're watching on TV, with any kind of alcohol or drugs, or even just activities. And I mean, sometimes distracting ourselves is not a bad thing. I mean, it's not like we have to constantly just endure pain or suffering or uncomfortable feelings in order to heal. There's a place in everything for that. I mean, even this morning when I sat with those emotions, things came up, and then, as I said, it was kind of like a mirage. As soon as I tried to put my finger on something, it kind of disappeared. Then my mind ran away with other thoughts and things. So, you know, I sat with it as long as I could, and maybe I sat with it as much as my higher self knew I was capable of doing, of taking, before I actually distracted myself, and thankfully was able to kind of like get out of that heaviness a bit. So yeah, I just wanted to share this process, maybe share that technique as well. Maybe that can help. I also wanted to just remind myself that when I'm going through these feelings, like, it's funny, whenever I'm going through happy feelings, I know that they're not going to last somehow. So it's like I'm less attached to them. I'm more expecting them to change. And I want to get to the same place with when I go through my more negative ones, and remember that it's part of the process, and that no, I'm not going to necessarily spiral out into another 6-year depression. And I know that I am progressing. I can feel it. I do know that. And I just need to remember to trust. Whether this heaviness and darkness stays for another day, another week, maybe even a month. Sometimes we go through those really heavy moments, and I'm just going to be trusting that I know that I'm going in a good direction, and that I'm just going to trust. That's what I am going to be doing. So on that, I'm wishing you lots of love and lots of laughter, and I will see you next video. Thanks so much for watching.